Almost 16 years ago, a terrible injustice occurred when this office charged Edgar Barrientos Quintana with murder. He was later convicted and sentenced to life in prison. He was innocent. Last week, a judge granted defense counsel's request to vacate Mr. Barrientos Quintana's conviction and to immediately release him from prison, requests that we supported. Now, 16 years later, he is home with his family and here with us today. But nothing can give Mr. Barrientos Quintana back those 16 years, and for that, we are so sorry. And our hearts are with the family of Jesse Michelson over the irreparable loss. I am honored to have gotten to know some of Jesse's family, his sisters and his cousin, who are here with us today. I've been deeply moved by their strength and their love for Jesse. It takes extraordinary courage and compassion to come to terms with an innocent man being in prison and then do what you can to free him. When the criminal legal system does not function ethically, it causes significant harm. Harm to the accused, who in this case spent 16 years in prison for a crime he did not commit. Harm to the victim and their family, reopening deep wounds. Harm to the jurors who have to live with their role as decision makers in a case where they never had the true facts. And harm to the community who are left questioning their trust in our system and wondering if the person who murdered Jesse Michelson is still out in the community. All convictions must be founded in integrity for the public to trust our criminal legal system. I want to walk you through what happened in this case and what we plan to do to make sure such a wrong does not happen again in this office. The numerous problems with the initial investigation and prosecution are spelled out in great detail in the Attorney General's report, the defense petition to vacate the convictions, our response, and the judge's 103-page order vacating the conviction. But I want to talk about a few things that were highlighted by the judge. The first thing is Brady. Brady is a Supreme Court case that requires prosecutors to turn over evidence that is favorable and material to the defense. In this case, the judge found that the prosecutor's Brady violations alone were enough to vacate Mr. Barrientos Quintana's conviction. What this means is that the prosecution did not give the defense numerous items of evidence that were favorable to them. The judge, after listing the evidence that was not disclosed, wrote, quote, "This is a litany of evidence that defense counsel could have used to make hay." One example of a Brady violation was the prosecutor's failure to tell the defense that the TV reality show, The First 48, was embedded with MPD's investigators, Gators and Dale, and that the producers told Dale what to say for the cameras. The judge points to a memo written by the prosecutors to their supervisor after the conviction that they did not call Dale, the lead investigator in this case, to testify at trial, quote, "in hopes of avoiding cross-examination that would have been damaging to their case." To quote the judge, because the prosecutors were concerned that the fallout from the First 48 show could hurt their case, they hid that concern. The court also found that prosecutors failed to correct police testimony at trial that no one had identified someone other than Mr. Barrientos Quintana as the shooter. This was false and should have been corrected. Marcelo Sharkey Hernandez was the state's star witness against Mr. Barrientos Quintana, even though multiple witnesses had named him as the shooter before trial. MPD investigators and the prosecutors knew this. At trial, a prosecutor asked Sergeant Gators whether he had heard the nickname Sharkey at some point. He said yes. A prosecutor then asked, "Did anyone ever indicate to you that Sharkey was the shooter?" Gators responded, "No, no one ever indicated that." However, the court found that, quote, in testifying that nobody indicated to him that Sharkey may have been the shooter, Sergeant Gators either forgot one of the most relevant facts from the start of the investigation, or he perjured himself to try to convict Mr. Barrientos Quintana. The prosecutors knew or should have known this. They let it go. They did not make any attempt to correct the record to reflect the truth, unquote. Next, I want to talk about the lineups. The eyewitnesses initially described the shooter as bald or having a closely shaved bald head. In the photo lineup, MPD used an old photo of Mr. Barrientos Quintana with a shaved head. But at the time of the shooting, he had a thick head of hair, which can clearly be seen on surveillance video 33 minutes before the shooting. The court also found that photo lineup procedures violated numerous MPD protocols and best practices. After noting that the lead prosecutor in this case co-authored a law review article explaining the Hennepin County Attorney's Office partnership with the Minneapolis Police Department to study and revise eyewitness identification procedures to secure more reliable identifications and prevent wrongful convictions, the judge wrote this, quote, when MPD investigated Jesse Michelson's murder in 2008, both they and the Hennepin County Attorney's Office knew of these best practices for eyewitness identification procedures. As much as anyone, given her scholarship on the issue, the lead prosecutor knew or ought to have known these practices and their importance to the integrity of the photo lineup evidence. Nationally, 28% of exonerations involve problematic eyewitness identifications. Mr. Barrientos Quintana's conviction is now one of them. His case was also marred by prosecutorial and police errors, which we simply cannot tolerate. Over the last almost 2 years, we in the office have taken important steps to guard against this from ever happening again. In my first year in office, I prioritized the creation of a division of professional standards, a new team focusing on ensuring that we are meeting our ethical and legal requirements, training our staff on best practices, ensuring the integrity of prior convictions, and other related areas. With the leadership of this new division, our office hired a national expert in eyewitness identification to conduct a series of trainings for our staff to help ensure this never happens again. She has started to work with our prosecutors to ensure that everyone is up to date on best practices. This training will empower our prosecutors to recognize flawed identifications and not repeat past mistakes. None of our prosecutors ever want to be in a position of having convicted an innocent person. We also established a conviction integrity unit to investigate criminal convictions within Hennepin County where there is a plausible claim that an innocent person was convicted or some other serious miscarriage of justice occurred. And based on the findings of those investigations, pursue relief where appropriate. At the end of his opinion, the judge directed a quote to all those involved in the prosecution of Mr. Barrientos Quintana. It's a lengthy quote, but it ends with this. It is as much a prosecutor's duty to refrain from improper methods calculated to produce a wrongful conviction as it is to use every legitimate means to bring about a just one. When that doesn't happen, justice requires us to undo the harms of the past, not defend them. And that is what we have tried to do in this case. I want to once again thank all of those who worked to achieve Mr. Barrientos Quintana's release, the Great North Innocence Project, who represented Mr. Barrientos Quintana, the Attorney General's Conviction Review Unit for a thorough and lengthy investigation, the family of Jesse Michelson, and one of the original jurors who is with us today as well, and our staff, both attorneys and non-attorneys, and community members. Thank you to everyone who recognizes the importance of righting our wrongs in attaining justice. Now I want to invite Carrie Sperling, the Director of the Conviction Review Unit.
Thank you. I'm here on behalf of Keith Ellison and the Attorney General's office. He's unable to be here today, and he asked me to speak on his behalf and on behalf of the office. I'm reminded today of the words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." Convicting the wrong person is not only an injustice to the wrongly convicted person, but also to the victims' families and their loved ones. Our community suffers, too, because the true perpetrators are not brought to justice and they're free to harm others. When Attorney General Keith Ellison created the first conviction review unit in the state and the fourth statewide unit in the country, it was with this principle in mind. We know that people make mistakes. We all do. The criminal justice system makes mistakes. These mistakes sometimes slip through the cracks of our legal system, a system that leans way too heavily in favor of finality. Mr. Barrientos was harmed by a constellation of mistakes by many actors in this system, and he didn't receive justice. These mistakes also harmed Jesse Michelson's family. Needless to say, the people who carried out this senseless murder are the only beneficiaries of these mistakes. When the Conviction Review Unit recommended Mr. Barrientos' release, he became the third person to receive such a recommendation from this Conviction Review Unit when we began reviewing cases since 2021. We've received over 1,100 applications for review. We've closed over 850 of those with no recommendation of relief. The standard for relief is high, very high, and it should be. And so is the CRU's painstaking, extensive, collaborative, and transparent work that we do. We seek input from law enforcement, the county attorney's offices, the victims, and the applicant's attorneys as we review these cases and put forth the recommendations. We remain independent from the county attorney's offices, whose convictions we review, but we also work cooperatively with county attorneys. And we have to do that to complete a comprehensive investigation. The case for Mr. Barrientos' release met this very high standard for relief, and we were thankful that the Hennepin County Attorney's Office agreed with that. We're also grateful to County Attorney Moriarty for her and her team's careful attention, cooperation, and commitment to getting it right in this case. But with every exoneration, there's still work to do. The CRU stands ready to work with the Hennepin County Attorney's Office to understand and convey the lessons we've learned from this wrongful conviction and to prevent further injustices, the ones that happened to Mr. Barrientos and to Jesse Michelson's family. Thank you.
I want to invite Julie Jonas to speak. She represents Mr. Barrientos Quintana, and I do want to say the judge had a lot to say about the ineffective assistance of counsel in this case. That was not Ms. Jonas. She's representative after that. Julie?
Well, I have to say, this is such an incredible day for Edgar and for his family and for me personally. I've been working on this case for 11 years, first working with the Great North Innocence Project, and now for the past 2.5 years as pro bono counsel. There's so many people to thank that we simply couldn't have done this without, first off, the Great North Innocence Project for accepting the case and then letting me continue to work on it even when I no longer worked there. And also to my co-counsel, Anna McGinn, who came in a couple of years ago to help me with this case, whose service and persistence has absolutely been invaluable. I've got to thank my current employer, the University of St. Thomas Law School, because their mission for the common good and for social justice allowed me to keep working on this case, even though it wasn't part of my core duties there. We've had countless pro bono counsel through the Great North Innocence Project who have touched this case and helped with it over the years, but most particularly Marnie Farron, I have to name her, and a retired Minneapolis Police Department officer, Dale Burns, who started working with us on this case 7 or 8 years ago when I first started talking to him about it and did some really important investigation and always believed in Edgar's innocence. We had a number of law students working on the case, most recently Eliza Messenger and Francis Daniel. But perhaps most importantly is the work of the CRU at the Attorney General's office. They did an extraordinarily thorough investigation and were able to uncover evidence in the prosecutor's file that we simply never would have had access to without them. And then to Mary Moriarty and her professional, amazing staff for moving so quickly on this case once these injustices were uncovered. Honestly, Edgar couldn't be here without them. The procedural hurdles that he faced getting back into court were insurmountable and couldn't have happened. This couldn't have happened without their cooperation and assistance. You know, you hear a lot of people say, well, guilty people are always going free on technicalities. My experience is the opposite. Innocent people are staying in prison on technicalities. That the system, once someone is convicted, really goes into a position of protecting the finality of the verdict rather than the liberty of an individual person. And in most cases, that probably made sense, but in this case, it was a terrible tragedy. Edgar was in this country legally. He was a legal immigrant working full-time. He had no significant criminal history when he was arrested in October of 2008 and remained in custody for 16 years up until last week. He was arrested and held, and eventually it came out, as Mary discussed, that there was an alibi video that showed that he was across town just before the shooting. It would have been nearly impossible for him to make it across town to do this, and also that he didn't match any of the witness descriptions that were given. But that was all swept under the rug by the government at the time of his conviction, and his defense attorneys did not do the work they needed to do to show this to the jury. The result was an injustice for everyone involved. An injustice for Jesse Michelson, an injustice for his family, an injustice for Edgar, and an injustice for his family, who all lost their son, their brother, their uncle, their cousin, their nephew, and for Edgar's 2 young kids, their father, for 16 years. But today we move forward, and we're thankful that even though justice was delayed, it was not denied. I'm not sure if Edgar's going to speak or not. I know that's who you all really came to talk with. He's a little bit overwhelmed by this. He did tell me he wanted to thank everyone, but especially the Mickelson family, for their open minds and open hearts on this case and for helping this happen. And are you? Can you? Okay.
You got this.
You go.
This.
Well, I just wanted to thank everybody behind me, everybody right here. Had a role to for me to be free, especially Julie and Anna. They were, I'm telling you, they were fighting hard. And then my family, they're not all here, but without them, I couldn't. They were my support, from day one. And happy to be out here, man. Best week, man. It's the best week yet. And more to come, though, right? Yeah, thank you. Yeah, just didn't know when. And that's the problem. Like, it's gonna happen, just system's so slow. It's just I don't know, just it's gonna happen, you just don't know when. Even the last 3 months was just high. It's just don't want to get your hopes up. Yeah, pretty much. I always knew that it was gonna happen, but the system, So yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
I want to invite Tina Rosebear to speak. She has been one of Edgar's biggest supporters. She is the oldest sister of Jesse Michelson.
Hello, everybody. I just want to say we did it. We got justice for Edgar. We may not never get justice for my brother, but even with somebody incarcerated, it will never bring us justice because it will never bring Jesse back. From this moment forward, I hope any situation like this gets fully investigated so this never happens to anybody ever again in this situation. I just want to say I'm very grateful that Edgar, he gets to be home with his family for the holidays and from this moment forward. And I'm just very thankful with all the attorneys, the CRU, the Northern Innocent Project, right? Mary Moriarty, everybody who played a part to help me and my family understand that an innocent man was wrongly convicted and help bring him justice. This moment is my justice, I can say. Not because my brother's gone, he's not coming back, but I feel like I got justice by him being released because he gets to be with his family now. And now we can try to continue to heal with the loss of my brother now that everything was just ripped back open. I don't know. I just want to say we did it, and I'm thankful. And I could never be more grateful for being here right now and finally getting to meet him and apologizing for something that wasn't my fault. But, you know, it's hard. The 16 years have been crazy, but to be incarcerated and away from family for something you didn't do was even, you know, I couldn't imagine. So I just want to say I'm very thankful for everybody that played a role. And you got this. I'm happy for you. Thank you, guys.
Questions? Lou?
Will you charge Sharkey with murder? Is he still alive? Do you know where he is, and will he be charged or investigated?
The question is, will we charge Sharkey? Also, is he still alive? I don't know whether he's still alive. We are in conversations with law enforcement about whether additional investigation would yield information that would be helpful to us.
It seemed like you had everyone's kind of support when it came to reviewing this. MPD did come out, though, and say they felt this was reinterpretation of old facts rather than the presentation of any new facts. Curious, just kind of from your perspective, what it's like working with them on kind of reviewing a case like this, and if you felt there was any give or take that they were admitting they could have made a mistake.
I think it's important for all of us in the system to have some humility. Things happen here. People make mistakes. We would like nothing more than to work with the Minneapolis Police Department on what happened here. As I said, we have hired an expert on eyewitness identification to help our staff recognize and understand when best practices aren't being followed. So I think that there's a lot we could do together. I hope that they will take the time to look particularly at the judge's report. The judge took a great deal of time. His order is 103 pages long. He very carefully outlines what happened here. And I think from a policy perspective, I tried to outline some of the issues that were problematic. You know, I'm guessing it isn't part of MPD's policy to have a TV reality show script their investigation for them. So that's an area for improvement. We can all improve, but I think everybody in this system needs to have the humility and the courage to say when we did something wrong and move forward and try to do better in the future. And I think it's so important. You know, as I stand up here, I feel so fortunate to be with Mr. Barrientos Quintana and Jesse's family. And we have a juror back there too. There are so many people who were harmed by what happened here. It is family members, it is jurors who are part of this decision. So we in the system have to understand that when things go wrong, it's not weakness to step up and say, something went terribly wrong here. We are going to talk about it courageously and directly and transparently, and we're going to make sure we do everything we can to make sure it doesn't happen again.
But has MPD agreed to work with you on a new investigation in a short matter with regards to justice act?
We await to hear what MPD has to say. They've not reached out to us.
Just a little more on the fallout, if you will. If Assistant Chief Gators needs to testify for a case in the future, is that going to pose a problem now?
You know, all of those issues, the Brady kind of issues, are ones that we have to sort through. Fortunately, Claire Deagle, the head of professional standards, and her team do a wonderful job on Brady. So we're just going to have to sit down and sort through all of those issues.
Regarding Judge Caligiuri, will the office continue to have cases in front of her after this, or is there a problem with that now too?
We hope that she can be professional with our cases, and you know, we'll react as she reacts as well. She is a judge now. You know, things happen early or in one's career. I'm hopeful that she will reflect about what happened here and that she will be even a better judge.
Lou mentioned Assistant Chief Gators, who I believe his title now is like Assistant Chief of Community Trust or something similar to that, who is the investigator here. When it comes to the public's trust, you know, they see this story and say, can we trust that the system gets it right when I'm watching someone get convicted? I mean, what is your response to that of people who are now questioning, you know, the results they see when they look at what's happening in the courtroom?
I think that is an inevitable reaction from people when they see something like this. And what we can do as system partners, system stakeholders, is what I said before. We have to be transparent about mistakes that happen. We have to correct them. We have to not hide behind them and let somebody like Mr. Barrientos Quintana sit in prison after being wrongfully convicted. So we have to come forward. We have to say, this is what went wrong. And we have to put in place policies, procedures, training to make sure that this kind of thing doesn't happen again. So 16 years from now, you know, we're not seeing an Edgar Barrientos Quintana as a result of something that people in our office did today. So that's what I think the community must expect and should expect from all of us in the system.
Maybe a question for Tina. Do you mind sharing, what was the first thing you said to Edgar when you met him for the first time face to face?
I gave him a big hug and I apologized, even though he knows it's not my fault. He missed a lot of years behind being wrongfully convicted. And I just wanted to give my deepest sympathy because, I mean, I can't take that time back and it's not our fault, but I'm just glad I was able to speak up and from my point of view in understanding and knowing he's innocent. Because the beginning of this year, we didn't think that until we read through the paperwork thoroughly. And once we read through it, we understood that he should have never got convicted. So I'm just happy to be here right now and actually meet him and give him a hug and, you know, tell him we're sorry, even though we know it's not our fault, but just he's free now. And now I can sleep peacefully knowing that he's free. And as far as the other situation, I mean, you know, God doesn't let anything go unseen. So regardless of the situation, if the person who did it is free or if he's deceased, I don't know. But if he didn't change his life, you reap what you sow. And I mean, that's all I can say about that. I don't wish bad on anybody though, you know, regardless of the situation. I just hope people are more aware and pay attention to their lifestyle they're living, you know. You're welcome.
Thank you.